It seems like recently there have been a lot of video games that have been remastered just a few months after their initial release. But the Final Fantasy VII Remake has always been like chasing a Himera, something we could only dream about since playing the original as kids. Having played Final Fantasy on the PC, I wasn't very hopeful that the remaster would live up to fan expectations. For a moment, Square Enix made fans nervous by trying to outsource game development to CyberConnect 2. Ultimately, though, they decided completing the project in-house with Unreal Engine would be the best way to go. Scrolling through the reviews at the time of the release didn't make me feel much better, but I purchased the game anyway. After eagerly anticipating this long-awaited remake, I booted up the game, excited to dive back into the world of Midgar, but the opening animation made my heart drop. There's Cloud, about to jump off the train, and voila! Here comes our stuttering friend ready to join the party. Let's reboot again, give it another shot, and same thing at the same exact spot. Final Fantasy VII Remake has been a problematic port, improved with some patches and later driver updates, but overall it remains underwhelming due to the lack of graphic options. Though the game didn't have any issues at the end, probably due to the hardware the game used, it's still suffering from the bad implementation of Steam input. While PhysX is traditionally used for standard or background animations, Creative Business Studios has been able to integrate custom solutions like Bonamic in a very efficient way, and the results are clear. Barrett's character model appears particularly attractive under different lights and environmental conditions, and is arguably even more convincing than Cloud Strife's character model. Doing a faithful adaptation of a game that was originally designed with low-poly 3D models on 2D backgrounds is a different beast. It takes both artistic taste and skills to reliably reproduce specific details or gestures like a character jumping from a train, the spicy honeybee insection, the Sector 7 pillar, or the 10-minute-long stairs in the Shinra Tower. From the very beginning of the game, it's clear that they took a lot of care when making this remake the best it could be. When it comes to combat, there are some moments where the mechanics lack polishing, but overall, there's not much to complain about. The developers deserve a lot of praise. Slashing Shinra soldiers in the opening feels just as good as it did the first time you played. Landing a chain of standard attacks is important to build up enemy stagger bar, a feature inherited by the 13th chapter. This is how Final Fantasy XIII wanted to be, but couldn't. It's evident from the infamous trailer of Final Fantasy XIII that they wanted to include this seamless transition between exploring sections and battle with this well-implemented gameplay. The battle system works well, but there are some gimmicks you'll have to adjust to. You're gonna have to get used to switching between the characters on the field more often. There's a lot of downtime between your party's attacks. If you're not paying attention, long-range characters like Aerith or Barrett will sometimes get trapped with close-range enemies. Not only they will not keep proper distance, but they might also decide to charge and get too close to an enemy. You'll also have to be very strategic with the way you switch between characters. Whenever you switch to a new character, the enemies will start to aggro that character, so you'll have to decide if it's worth the risk of having them attacked just to switch over to perform that special combo you've been trying to get off. The sequence of your switch might be critical when somebody falls unconscious and needs to be revived. Additionally, you'll have to decide when it's best to use the auto-heal feature versus using a more team-supportive approach and switching to a character to manually heal. It might not be that noticeable, but most AI characters are able to heal by themselves. Another issue is that flying enemies are not perfectly integrated into that environment. The way the characters and camera interact is problematic at times, but it's a minor issue. Evading an attack in Punisher mode automatically switches you into Operator mode in an effort to prevent you from abusing the Pari feature, so if you want to revert back to Punisher mode, you have to do so manually. Ultimately, the migration to this type of action gameplay is performing well, but there are a few minor details that could be improved, like locking onto the intended targets. At the beginning of the game, you're railroaded through a series of corridors and you're too limited on how much you're able to explore. The first point can be excused, considering you're completing a sabotage mission, but preventing you from backtracking even a few meters in a narrow place makes no sense. The quality of graphics isn't always what you expect either. It makes sense that the animators would pay more attention to certain scenes over others, but there are too many times throughout the game where close-ups reveal hard-to-ignore low-res textures, or scenes that fall flat when they're fully lit, like the slums. While disappointing, it only makes sense for a franchise that's trying to adjust the expectations modern photorealistic video games have created. Sneaking back into Shinra headquarters feels a little awkward because muscle memory kicks in and you're expecting a splash screen and random combat encounter at any second. Instead of random combat encounters, you're greeted by random unfinished corners and invisible walls that create the illusion of an expansive, immersive recreation of Midgar. As you walk through the city between your missions, you'll overhear comments made by other inhabitants of Midgar.
So this is all.
You never know. If the planet's a living being. There are monsters on the plate too. Hey, the area.
Factories are.
The refined and impressive AI-based system implemented in Final Fantasy XV that delivers the dynamic conversations between Noctis and his pals is of course absent, but you'll be pleasantly surprised by how detailed the NPCs' conversations are. You're able, though, to skip some walking between the streets with fast travel option that's available after the side quest is completed. It's a feature getting popular in many products, and that might be the source of a discussion on its role in some video games. There are some oversights in the sound mixing that cause the background music to be too loud at times, and some effects might seem a little exaggerated.
I'm home. Hey, baby. Been up to no good? Rude came by.
So, this is my mom, Elmira. And this is Cloud, my bodyguard.
Hi.
Take good care of her?
That's my job.
But it's very subtle, and you have to be paying a lot of attention to catch it. It's important to note that all the dialogue here is done with voiceover, with outstanding performances by celebrities like Cody Christian as Cloud, Brianna White as Aerith, and Charlie Sheen as Briggs.
Give me a bit more time and I got you.
The soundtrack in the remake is a great combination of orchestral and electronic songs. One of the best moments is during the battle against the Airbuster. The OST kicks in, perfectly creating a sense of urgency that gets your heart racing and gets you pumped for the fight.
Are you alright?
I'm fine. You guys ready to go?
I see where Never again.
What did you do?
Big boy means business.
There!
Though it is a great soundtrack, the original 16-bit melodies were catchier and much more memorable, a testament of the game's epicness. Some of the new arrangements have unfortunately the tendency to hide a little in gameplay. In an attempt to extend the player experience in Midgar, Square Enix unnecessarily creates meaningless subplots with the introduction of random characters, like the bike guy. What's his purpose, other than wasting my time? You end up accepting some obsolete mechanisms from previous video game eras, like having to interact with somebody to make nearby enemies and items spawn. Ultimately, the repetition of minor boss battles and too much padding doesn't really add much to the life of Midgar. The most overrated addition to the remake is in the wall market. As much as you might like it, the dancing game at the end is unnecessary and ultimately takes away from the moment. Instead of just being able to watch a cool cutscene and relive a fan-favorite moment, you're forced to play a sterile DDR and worry about not missing the commands. Don Corneo has always been a charming moment, and it's still enjoyable, but the biggest moments are not exactly the dramatic reveals they should be. Instead, they're hidden in cryptic single lines dropped by some character that clearly knows more than we can imagine. It's dropped on screen for you, not for Cloud & Co., and you, hopefully as somebody that played the original, have to recognize how they are out of place.
It's gotta be a trick. There's no way they'd go that far. But what if Corneo really was telling the truth? We have to get there in time to stop it. We have to.
Right.
Aerith, what are you not telling me?
Huh?
There's no way that someone who hasn't played the original can play and truly enjoy this game. The hints that are left for you throughout the game and the way they break the fourth wall is impressive at times. It catches you off guard and completely shocks you at the end. Ultimately, it makes you curious and draws the player in, making you want to discover what insane plan the developers are concocting. Final Fantasy VII Remake is the proof that while in the 90s, Squaresoft and the His fans were Avalanche, over the past few decades, the company has evolved into Shinra. The fans who refuse to acknowledge Squaresoft's flaws are no better than Shinra employees. There's this narrative that the game is good, the game is great, the game is amazing for the most part of it, until that last part, that last chapter, and overall it has a very positive rating. But I think most people are afraid of other fans calling them incompetent or ruining any relationship they could have with Square Enix and other companies. It's unfair, though, for people to use the divisive ending just as a way to jump on the bandwagon, get views, and monetize their pointless chit-chatting. Final Fantasy VII Remake doesn't just fail in the last chapter, it fails within a few minutes of the game starting, when Sephiroth appears to Cloud. It fails during the first encounter with Aerith. You give the game the benefit of the doubt, you patiently wait to see its true intentions, but the whole game is just an inexcusable mess. Final Fantasy VII Remake is inappropriate and leaves fans questioning what the second game is going to be like. With Cloud already in the final phase, already an endgame savior transcending dimensions, is he still going to be stacked in the beginning of the second game? If not, how are they going to justify his lack of skills? How many things are they going to excuse using flashbacks, alternate timelines, or the characters having passed through portals or live stream? Final Fantasy VII Remake is not bad. It's just wrong. A marvelous castle built on an absolutely wrong premise. It's a cash-in nostalgia trip. It's an unforgettable yet unforgivable experience. It's Square Enix introducing you to a series of games, product, media based on milking and rehashing an IP. Humanity can be divided into two species: those who played the original Final Fantasy VII and those who did not. The history of the world is defined as time before Final Fantasy VII and time after Final Fantasy VII. There is a world before Final Fantasy VII and after Final Fantasy VII. Think about the person you were before playing it. Now think about who you were after. Think about how the game changed you. Now, think about the person you are after playing Final Fantasy VII Remake. If it wasn't clear to you before, it should be now. With Final Fantasy VII Remake, Square Enix is saying that Final Fantasy VII and all it represented is in the past and cannot exist on its own anymore. We've been asking for a proper remake for years, and this is Square Enix telling us that it isn't going to happen. Let her go.